And today we're going to look, last week we looked at holiday party survival. Okay, so you used the tip of moving the glass in the other hand. Were you able to put everything on a plate?
Yes, well, there were two buffet tables, so I kind of took like everything and
Right, and able to kind of add it on that plate versus just being handed something on a napkin. And okay, welcome you guys, come on in. Okay, so last week, just as a refresher, and you guys got a handout as well, but arrive satisfied, move away from the buffet table, offer to bring the low-calorie, healthy appetizer entree, circulate to help focus on the people, not just on the food, cross-examine, think about it, is this a good choice? How many calories is this going to add up? Read your napkin. That's looking at the bigger, the oil, grease mark, the higher calorie, higher fat. Drink slim, save the bubbly till midnight. We're going to look at that more today. Modify a recipe, do some extra physical activity, and have a plan and stick with it. Okay? So again, the holiday foods are all around us, and then you add our emotions and feelings this time of year of fatigue, tired, overbooked, overcommitted, and we combine those two, and it's definitely a high-risk situation of all those holiday foods, plus we're not feeling our best, maybe not getting enough sleep, not exercising enough, overbooked, and it's going to lead to, it's definitely a huge potential for weight gain. So we want to be proactive. Okay, so when you have the urge to eat, hurry up and get on your feet. Think about what are those things you could do instead. How can you, we're going to talk about ways to, when you feel the hunger or the urge to eat, it might not even be from hunger. What can you do instead, or even to postpone that act of, deciding and finding something to eat? Okay, this is looking at a study that was done back in 2008. There were over 420 subjects, and they were broken up into 4 different groups. The first group did no exercise at all. The second group did an hour or more per week. The third group did at least 2 hours, and the fourth group did at least 3 hours. Okay, and this was looking at mental health, where they were at, how they would rate, how they were feeling, happy, sad, stressed, fatigued, and they saw the most improvement in the quality of life scores with people in the group that were exercising at least 3 hours per week. So it increased with the amount of exercise. No exercise, obviously saw no improvement. Even with an hour a week, they rated a little better. 2 hours a week, even better. 3 or more hours per week, they rated their quality of life even higher. So not only does exercise help us get that calorie deficit we need to allow for some of the party foods, but it's a huge stress reliever, and just emotionally, mentally puts us in a better place to kind of deal with those challenges we have ahead of us. So I thought that was really interesting. And then the other thing is every bit counts. Even on the days that you don't have that hour you'd like to go to the gym, or whatever that chunk of time is that would be ideal for you, every bit counts, whether it's, holiday shopping, running around, not moving your car if you can walk from one place to the next, walking to look at the lights in the neighborhood versus driving around to look at the holiday lights, dancing, cleaning, all of those count, taking the stairs versus the elevator. All of those little things we can do during the day are going to add up, especially on a day that we feel like, oh, I don't have time to take a half-hour walk. Well, let's do 10 minutes now, let's do 10 minutes later, let's take the stairs instead of the elevator. It all adds up. This was another study that was in the Journal of Clinical Nutrition, September of 2012, that looked at why do we overeat. And the 3 things they measured was alcohol consumption, watching TV, and not getting enough sleep. Okay, so they were comparing alcohol consumption was considered 1 to 2.5 drinks or servings. Sleep deprivation was considered no more than 5.5 hours versus at least 8 in the other group. And TV was typically 25 to 45 minutes. So that's not even that much TV, I don't think. You know, when the night gets away from us, we could easily watch multiple shows or a lot more than that. But alcohol had the biggest impact, followed by sleep deprivation, then TV. So it's just interesting. There's still that huge correlation between consuming alcohol and a higher consumption of calories versus a night where whether just chose not to drink or driving, they would consume less calories. Okay, with the TV, there's definitely the ads that kind of stimulate cravings, wanting to eat. Sleep deprivation too. We often turn to food to keep us awake. If we're sitting at our desk all day, we'll turn to food out of boredom. We'll turn to food at night when we're tired to stay awake, or during the day for kind of a pick-me-up. So those are kind of 3 things that I would, this time of year especially watch out for. Watch out for the alcohol consumption. Am I getting enough sleep? How much TV am I watching? Or am I just tired at night and I should turn off the TV and just go to bed? Okay, so holiday beverages. So we definitely want to drink slim, meaning trying to drink lower calorie. Water's always the best. If you can drink black coffee, plain tea, or add a little 0-calorie sweetener, watch juices, watch alcohol. Let's look at some of the holiday drinks. Another thing I want to look at is the glass. So here shows a tumbler, the shorter glass, we tend to pour more alcohol in it. And often at party, holidays, it's not always in a restaurant or at a bar where they're watching what they're pouring for cost. At someone's home, that person's not used to pouring. They're just pouring to fill the glass. So the shorter the glass tends to have more alcohol and higher calorie poured into it. But here's looking at I lost my little So here's looking at just what is considered an alcoholic beverage or a serving of alcohol. It would be 1.5 fluid ounces in a mixed drink, 5 ounces of wine, or 12 ounces of beer. So sometimes it's just the glass. When we're served a glass of wine, how full is it? Is it half full or is it full? If it's full, we're getting 8 or 9 ounces of wine. Here would be a 4-ounce glass. How often do we truly grab a 4-ounce glass at home? This is considered technically a juice glass. When people say, I take my medications with juice in the morning, how often is it just a 4-ounce glass? And then here would be 6 ounces. And sometimes we need to look at the serving size when we buy a carton of juice or even milk. Here's an 8-ounce glass, so a 1 cup. And here, honestly, if you go to a fast food restaurant now, this is a small. And the large gets enormous, up to 44 ounces. I've seen a 60-ounce cup. So even for just this glass, which is now considered a small, if it's a regular soda or the sweetened iced tea, that is how much sugar goes in. And the problem here is we get a refill. It's free refills, right? We get a refill and we don't think about it. We don't think about how many, whereas if we were grabbing a can out or at home, you would be aware of, oh geez, I've grabbed 2 cans, I've grabbed 3 cans. Whereas in a restaurant, when it's like, oh, would you like a refill? Sure. Or grab a refill when you're out doing it self-serve, you don't really think about it or add it up in your head. And I've heard people go from soda to the iced tea or lemonade thinking they're doing better, but often, from the fountain drink, that sweetened iced tea as well as the sweetened lemonade has similar sugar content to the soda.
Was that soda? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was how much sugar was in a soda?
Soda, a regular soda. Okay. So if we had a dilemma, we looked at this with kind of our party food, red wine or white wine? And there's, there doesn't have to be a totally correct answer. What would you guys say? Red. Why would you guys say red? The antioxidants, you've probably heard it's better, heart healthy. It does have the antioxidants, the flavonoids from the grape seed, skin. So it does have some health benefits. They actually say the white wine has a hormone in it that's more likely to trigger headaches. So some people are prone to that, some people aren't. But again, it's not so much red or white as it is the portion. The biggest thing is going to be the portion, because also not only is the glass half full, but how many of us truly have this size wine glass? Or is it bigger? And how full is a glass that we're handed when we're at somebody's house in a party situation? And then we're talking and we're not watching, how much we're drinking, or as someone walked by and filled it and we didn't even notice. Oops. So champagne or a cocktail? Champagne. The big problem with the cocktail is now we're starting to add stuff to it. We're adding juice, we're adding a mix, we're adding a lot of sugar, okay? So the champagne would be lower calorie. So if we look at kind of the lower calorie, anytime we can do a soda or a spritzer or sparkling flavored water, there is a ton of 0 calorie flavored sparkling waters out that put in a fancy glass with a lime slice or whatever you want to add to it, you still feel like you're partaking in the party atmosphere, the party situation. So that has helped a lot of people I've worked with. They have brought their favorite, whether it's mandarin orange flavored sparkling water, and then they have a glass like everyone else. They partake in the holidays, they drop, cranberries in it or whatever anyone else is doing in a cocktail or mixed drink, but they know they're having 0 calories from their beverage. So typical eggnog, so this is again 1 cup. So 1 cup is 8 ounces. So an 8-ounce cup of eggnog without the alcohol is going to be 320 calories. So then we add the alcohol and we can pretty much add 100 calories. So we're at over 400 calories in a small glass of eggnog. Okay? Whereas there's definitely ways to, you can look online, you can buy low fat, you can buy non-fat milk, warm it, and add your own rum extract, vanilla extract, and nutmeg, kind of what goes into eggnog. So that's where you kind of use that, cross-examine. You start to think of there has to be a lower calorie way I can do this, or, how can I feel like I'm celebrating, or I have a lot of people who are using like the sugar-free Torani syrups, the sugar-free flavorings of whether it's peppermint or pumpkin back at Thanksgiving, gingerbread, to add to their coffee they make at home, which they can do black or add a little non-fat milk, or, versus going out and getting a Starbucks peppermint frappuccino loaded up, and then they can walk out the door with a 600 calorie beverage. And then sometimes comparing it to exercise helps, thinking, okay, that 8-ounce glass of milk, or pretend it's eggnog, would equal over 3 miles of walking. And then that's when you kind of say, is it worth it? And often if you've spent the time and you've done your exercise that day, you're more motivated and focused on your health, and you're less likely to want to say, I'll just have it. You're thinking about, no, I don't want to counteract what I did today. I don't know if you guys can see this, but this looks at caloric, we call it anchor points of different beverages. And it looks at per fluid ounce, and it ranges from 5 calories per fluid ounce at tomato juice up until 100 calories for 1 fluid ounce of a heavy cream. And so it's a huge spectrum of our beverages for 1 ounce to range from 25 calories to 100. Okay, so somewhere in there we can look at, soft drinks and beer at 12 calories per ounce. We look at whole milk, 20 calories per ounce. You can keep going up. There's that eggnog at 40 calories per ounce. Light cream is still 65 calories per ounce. And then we get to where we kind of ask ourselves, and then how many ounces are we drinking? If that's per ounce, and here's 4 ounces, it definitely starts to add up, versus when we think about, there is quite a bit of 0 calorie beverage options. So we want to think about, what are the triggers for you? What are those high-risk situations that lead or push you to have that urge to turn to food or turn to high-calorie beverages to, get through something? I mean, I know when it's haven't got enough sleep, super tired at work, people tend to turn to a vending machine or another caffeinated beverage, which might be high calorie, a soda or a high calorie coffee drink, to get that energy to go through the day. Whereas if we had gotten enough sleep, we'd be able to kind of cut those extra calories. So thinking about kind of what are those triggers for you, and then that's what you want to focus on this week, next week, identifying those situations, and then how can you kind of set yourself up to do better in those situations. Let's see now. So again, it's kind of that perfect setup this time of year, of we have certain triggers, and then you add holiday foods, which equals, when we have our triggers or when we're emotional, add the holiday foods, it's that mindless eating. The mindless eating, the mindless high-calorie beverages, that then equals the weight gain. So just that you guys are here and focused on it, you're doing so much better than the majority of the population that gains weight from Halloween to New Year's. There we go. So what are some strategies? Once you kind of know these are my high-risk situations, or you can even look at this weekend. I'm sure a lot of you have something, whether it's Friday night, Saturday night, what do I have going on that's going to be a hard situation for you? And think about, these are some distract and delay techniques. The first one we'll look at is called the 3 food interference. Then we'll look at alternate activities, and then having a food-free zone. So the 3 food interference is identifying 3 safe or low-calorie foods or things that you always have on hand. And when you have that urge to eat, like I'm just gonna go, eat these cookies because they're here, I'm hungry, I'm stressed, you already have written down on paper and planned, when I get that urge, first I'm gonna drink a bottle of water, second I'm gonna, have an apple, or I have the little bags of baby carrots, or is it a protein shake or a banana, or what are some healthy low-calorie foods that you always have at home? And I'd have one of the 3 be a low-calorie or 0-calorie beverage, because sometimes we're thirsty, and when we're thirsty, we feel like we're hungry. So whether that's a water or like a 0-calorie flavored water or even a diet soda that kind of sometimes satisfies that sweet without adding a lot of calories, I would try and have those through 3 things. I'm going to drink a water bottle, and then I'm going to have a cutie, and then I'm going to have an apple or a bag of carrots, whatever your 3 things might be, and then afterwards, do you still want it? And often you'll only still want it if you're truly hungry, and by usually doing the 3 interference will stop you from having something if it's just out of fatigue, frustration, emotions, because it's there. So that's definitely a good tool, and have it planned out. It doesn't work to just say, oh, I'll have something, then I'll have it. Plan it out. What are those 3 things going to be? What are 3 things you always have on hand that are low calorie, healthy, kind of steers you on the right track again? A food-free zone. Has anyone ever had an area in their house, or someone told me they got new carpet in their office, so they're not allowed to eat at their desk. So their desk is now a food-free zone. They can only eat in the break room. Or at home, can you make the couch while watching TV a food-free zone? That's a huge challenge. If you were stuck standing in the kitchen or sitting at the kitchen table or wherever you eat near your kitchen, and there's no distractions like watching TV, listening to music, reading a book, on the computer, you won't stay there that long. You'll really only stay if you're hungry. Whereas if you have food next to you while you're working on something on the computer or reading a book or magazine or watching TV, you'll keep eating just because it's there. So that's that mindless eating that we want to avoid. We want to try and be eating when we're hungry, when we need to feed our body, not just mindless because it's there. So sometimes having those food-free zones, I won't eat while I'm working on the computer, or I won't eat in bed watching TV or on the couch, really helps. Another one would be, this is an example, but for you, write down alternate activities. If you've identified some of those high-risk situations are when you're stressed or in a party or a gathering, or the food just appears at work and it's sitting in the break room, what are things you could do instead? Could you go for a walk around the building? Could you call a friend? Could you go to a food-free zone and read a magazine? What are things you could do instead? Be productive. Can you pay bills or do the laundry or play with your kids, or what can you do instead? It's kind of that delay and distract. And often, same with kids, when kids are busy, they're not constantly saying they're hungry, asking for food. Whereas when there's downtime, same with adults and kids, we tend to be like, oh, okay, we look for food more. Whereas when we're busy or doing something we enjoy, we don't think about it as much. So having a list of kind of alternate activities you can do instead, or even just to postpone, helps. Okay, so I'd encourage you to kind of look, we're already almost halfway through December. Look at how you've done so far. Are you where you want to be? Was your goal for December to lose weight, maintain weight? Did you have a small window of I'm allowing, if I gain 2 pounds, I'll be okay. But kind of what was your goal for December? Where are you at? And then think about, how does the rest of December look? What's on the calendar that's definitely a high risk situation? Are there some things you need to say no to? That you're just stretching yourself too thin and there's no way for you to get enough sleep and do the planning you need. And think about, okay, when will I grocery shop? That's going to be key. When we don't have those foods at home and we're grabbing everything out, we're going to be in more trouble. Even like the healthy snacks that you guys have had in here. Do you have the cut up veggies at home? Do you have the fruit? Do you have things in baggies that you can grab and go as, a few 100-calorie snacks to have with you in the car, in your purse, so you don't get stuck needing to grab something quick and easy? Because unfortunately, quick and easy when we're out running around often ends up to be fast food or coffee and a pastry or very calorically dense items. So when are you grocery shopping? When are you getting your exercise in? What are those high-risk situations, and how can you better handle them? So think about it. It says, what is the number one tool you will use to manage your high-risk situations? Is it more planning? Is it trying a food-free zone? Is it having a list of alternate activities? You know, is it trying the 3 food interference? You know, identifying 3 things you can have beforehand, and then if you're still hungry, go back to it. If you're satisfied and you've been able to move on, that's kind of the goal there as well. Okay, do you guys have any questions? All right, you guys. Well, thank you.